everybody, all my Nurture Your Pet fans and followers. Thank you. Today, another special day. I've got a beautiful, beautiful lady, Mary Debono. And there's something I have to introduce you about before I start introducing her properly. I want to tell you how I came across her because, it's very special. So, as you all know, I've had a little bump in the road. I've been through a little bit of health challenges that were, trying and a little bit difficult for me. And with the result that I had to consult a bunch of physicians, a surgeon, and that was my journey with my health. But what I noticed here, I here in Asia as well as all over the world, that the conventional medicine does work, obviously, but people now are going more into integrated medication and doing a lot more into natural healing, and that's what I started applying for myself and reading more about it for my health. In the meantime, while that was going on, I am looking at my pets. I have 5 beautiful pets that have been with me for a long, long time, and 3 in particular, and one that I've already been talking to all of you about is my golden retriever, Oliver. And Oliver is 13, and he is, well, I'm not going to say he's the love of my life, but actually he is. But the other 4 are also very special. Oliver has developed hip problems, and I've been sharing this with all of you because I really literally hold my breath knowing the inevitable is going to happen. We all have a shelf life. But it's hard to see my dog struggle, and it's hard to see him go through that pain. So what did I start doing? I said, well, if integrated medicine and alternative healing, these new modalities, work with humans, how about animals? Of course, we can do it for animals too. So I went and got this amazing book called The Pet Healer Project, and everyone should read it. I will display. It's a bunch of stories of all kinds of healers all over the world that have explained different ways how they heal animals, horses, dogs, cats, and even, I think, Mary's case, iguanas, right?
Yes.
And very, very, very special book on healing. And who was the first person in the first chapter was Mary Debono. All about her way of working with animals and healing. And I read that, and that for me was like I couldn't put the book down. And I thought, well, this is interesting. You know what? I was wondering, would Mary speak to me and explain to all of us out there, all of you out there, would she be willing to be interviewed and talk about this way of healing, energy healing, how we can do this with our beloved pets? So I sent her an email, and guess what? She replied right away. She goes, hi, sure, tell me when and I'll be ready. I was really blown away because it makes her so approachable, so kind, so generous, and I can't thank Mary enough. I'm going to let you know right now what she's all about, but I really have so much gratitude that she just gives her time, and she's very, very special. So let me introduce Mary Debono. Hold on. Mary Debono has a passion for helping animals and their people move easier despite injuries, arthritis, and aging. And this is what we are all facing. Our gorgeous pets are aging, and they have difficulty moving, they have arthritis. She's the author of an award-winning Amazon #1 bestseller, Grow Young with Your Dog. We are going to display how to get your hands on that book, where to pick it up from. It's an incredible book, and I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to. Over a career spanning more than 30 years, Mary has helped thousands of individuals, ranging from disabled dogs to high performing equine and human athletes. Before the pandemic, Mary traveled international to teach people how to help their animal companions live healthier lives. And that's what we want. We want to learn how to help them. Her book and online programs continue to make it possible for people all over the world to learn her holistic approach. Again, we are going to display how to, get onto her online classes, and they're super beneficial for all of us. Mary and her husband live in Southern California, USA, and she's sitting there right now, and it's so wonderful. I'm in Hong Kong, she's in California, and yeah, the wonders of internet. They stay young by playing with their energetic rescue, Tony, and spirited quarter horse breed. And Mary's going to discuss a few topics, which I will also explain. But first of all, I want to say, Mary, welcome. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being so friendly, approachable, and ready to help us. We need your help. We need your help.
Well, thank you so much, Nita. I'm so thrilled and honored to be here. And the reason I jumped at the chance, this is my mission, is to share this work because it's so transformative. I know how it's helped me, and it's helped all the animals and people I've worked with over the years. So I just love sharing it. I want everyone to know about it.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
That is so generous of you, because we are all here loving our animals, loving pets, and they really depend on us. They are helpless.
Absolutely.
They're helpless. And so this is very incredible. I just want to let everyone know that we're discussing 4 big topics. So be prepared for this. And then the topics are: number 1, how to interrupt the downward spiral that often occurs in aging or injured animals. I am facing that right now, like on my Facebook page. And I know a lot of you are facing it with yours, and we need help. The second thing we're discussing: how Debono Moves, Mary Debono has named it the Debono Moves, deepens the bond and improves communication between you and your pet. That's so important. The third topic is why your mindset is important when helping your pet. And the last one is also very, very important: why it's never too late or too early to start improving your pet's movement and well-being. Mary, thank you. Thank you for these 4 huge topics that you're going to discuss with us. And I know we're going to come at the end of this so much wiser. And all of you, Mary's contact details, her website, everything will be displayed. Any questions, any online courses, any book, please contact her. She has a world of wisdom, and obviously, if you are also in the U.S., she needs. So
yeah, thank you, Nita. Thank you.
So the first question I have is, Mary, let's kick this off. Please describe what it is you do.
Such a big question, right? But I can say what I do is let's use an example that I'm working with a dog, because I do work with dogs, cats, horses, humans, and like you mentioned, I have worked with iguanas and rabbits and different animals. Say I'm working with a dog. My job is to remind that dog's nervous system of what's possible. So, and I'll explain it this way. Dogs, horses, cats, humans, we all get into habits of how we move through life. And over time, a lot of those habits end up harming us. So we may have a habit of, tightening the back in a certain way, overusing one part of the spine more than another. And they take a toll over time. So my job is to, again, remind that dog or horse or human's nervous system that all the parts can move in a healthy, efficient way. So can I give you an example?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We are novices. We know nothing.
Okay. So there was this dog, her name was Cassie, and she was a big dog, like 70 plus pounds. And what had happened was her owner, that she was adopted, she was a rescue, and her owner, Michelle, her person, had taken her to the park. They were running around. Cassie saw a squirrel and went flying after the squirrel. You know how dogs will do that. And the squirrel went under a chain link fence, but Cassie didn't stop in time, so she slammed into the fence. So Michelle, her person, was first, like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? But, Cassie got up, acted like nothing was wrong, and they started to slowly walk home. Well, partly through the walk home, Cassie would just stop and lie down. So luckily, they lived really close to the park, so she was able to slowly get her home, and she took her immediately to the vet. And what the vet did was he saw that she had smashed into the fence, her lips were bloodied, her gums. And then they took x-rays, and he said, okay, this isn't new. He said, look at her spine and her lower back, like her lumbar spine. She already had signs of arthritis. And he said, this is the problem. He said, it wasn't because of her hitting the fence. He said that like brought it to the surface, but she's been dealing with this a little while. And he said, we could do a very risky surgery, but he didn't recommend it because it had a lot of, risk to it. And he didn't know if it would help. So he said, the only thing you can do is give her anti-inflammatories, pain relievers, and we'll see what happens. So Michelle did that for a while, but Cassie still kept having problems. She kept lying down. She couldn't walk. She couldn't get up. So she started going to all these different practitioners, different massage therapy, aromatherapy, like all kinds of different practitioners, including an animal communicator. And I believe it was the animal communicator who told her to call me.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yeah. So this had been going on for months at this point, and the episodes of Cassie not being able to move were ramping up. They were getting more and more frequent. And the vet, again, she kept going to the vet, but the vet was like, there's really nothing I can do. This is a problem she has in her spine. And besides this risky surgery, that's all we can do. And he didn't really recommend it. So when I worked with Cassie, what I noticed, and this again this is like what my job is, to remind her how all the parts of her back could work. So I could see that when she was walking, she overused some places and totally underused other places. So no wonder she hurt herself. So even at a young age, she had been creating the conditions for arthritis, which many of us do, whether we're dogs or horses or humans. And so all I did was it takes some level of experience, but I used my hands very, very lightly and delicately to remind her nervous system that all the parts of her back could participate. So I ended up, so the first session, Cassie didn't know who I was. So she was a little bit nervous, but then she settled down and soon she was like really relaxed. Gave her a second session about a week later, I think it was. And I said to Michelle, after the second session, I said, she doesn't need me anymore. And by the way, after the first session, she had never had another episode of of not being able to walk. But Michelle insisted on a third session because she said, Mary, you don't understand. We've been dealing with this for months. I've gone to everybody. I can't just stop. She can't be better after 2 sessions.
I would think the same.
Yeah, so I said, all right. So we did a third session. And then I convinced Michelle she didn't need me anymore. And from that first session, Cassie never, ever, ever had that problem again. And again, what I did was I reminded her nervous system of what was possible. I helped her get out of that inefficient, that unhealthy habit she had of overusing some places and underusing others, and allowed her to move like a young dog. which she wasn't that old anyway to begin with, but to remind her how she could move when she had her full potential available. And that's basically in a nutshell what I do, Nita. That's what I do.
Okay, so I have something that here. There is a passage that I want to read out because it stood out for me quite a bit. By the way, how old was Cassie?
Well, I think Michelle thought she was only 3 or something. I think she was closer to 7, the vet thought, 6 or 7.
Yeah, and I have a question to ask you about age also. But
Sure.
this passage has to do with exactly what you are talking about right now. I was blown away by this passage. You wrote, to me, the word healer implies that someone outside of ourselves has the power to heal us. I don't feel this way. That's what you wrote. I feel that I have some knowledge to impart and certain ways of using my hands that with small, gentle movements encourage the muscles to move in new ways. I provide the environment for change, but it's the nervous system itself that makes the changes. My job is to remind the nervous system, human or animal, of what is possible. And I love what you just said. The healer is within us.
Yes.
For me, that was very powerful because we don't think that. And we need to honor that we have that. And I forgot, for me, even myself, for my health.
Mm-hmm.
And when you wrote that, I mean, I was reading this book while I was undergoing my own radiation therapy. And I was like, wow, this also applies to me. It's not
Yes.
me just going in there in that tunnel and getting, a little treatment here. It's also me that's healing myself. So now, I know I might be going off on a tangent, Mary, but I think this is important. This technique, no, what this would be anyway in a question that I'm going to ask you. But when you say the healer is within us, it just occurred to me to ask you this question: is the culprit of having caused this either a disease or an ache in the body, or of course, like you explained, if we don't walk or sit properly, it affects the spinal. But when we have other internal things like forget not just the bones, is also that caused by ourselves?
I don't think necessarily that's the case. Yeah, I don't think that's the case.
So let's say an animal. If an animal is depressed, yeah, for whatever the reasons are, that causes illness in an animal too, I would say. Would that affect kidney and other functions? Now, also in that energy healing that we can you do as you can teach us, we can also help our animals that way.
Yes, and to be clear, I even though energy is a part of what I do, like in other words, this is what I do, Nita. I help people harness their heart energy, like their loving energy, but then I combine that with very real neuroscience approaches. So in other words, so you get the benefit of the loving energy, which I think supercharges everything in a positive way. And you get this approach where I talk about working with the nervous system that's very much based in science. Like it's very real. Not that energy work isn't real, but you know what I mean? In other words, we're working directly with the nervous system. So so it's very much a hands-on method. It's not just thinking about sending energy. It's both of those things. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. So it makes sense, and I'm learning and I'm absorbing everything you said. Again, I might ask stupid questions, but you know,
Oh, there's no stupid questions. Never a stupid question.
so, but I'm not shy, and you're so easy to talk to, you know. And so, what's the difference between this and Reiki?
So I've experienced Reiki, and I have friends that are Reiki masters, and I think it's a wonderful modality, but it's not at all related.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
I
it's
don't
not
know. I don't know
related.
what Reiki
Yeah,
is either.
it's
So,
not related. I mean, Reiki, my understanding is that people who do Reiki, they receive what they call attunements, and they like kind of get, I don't know what the word is, but not, that's not the right word, but they get trained in certain ways of using energy, and they kind of get given the power, if you will, to use it. I haven't been trained in Reiki. That's not
yeah,
what I do. Yeah. So
yeah.
it's
And so this is also really important. In your book, Grow Young with Your Dog, you write, no matter the age, no matter the condition, some improvement is usually possible. Why do you feel this way? Because I have a 13-year-old and I pray to God it's not too late.
it's I have it literally is never too late in my experience. So one of the dogs, and I actually write about her. She's the first dog I talk about in the book. Was a 15-year-old dog she was a small dog, a poodle mix. She was lost a lot of her sight. She was deaf, but the most serious thing was she was undergoing surgery to have her spleen removed, and she had a stroke.
Oh,
So one side of her body was completely paralyzed. And the vets said that she needed to be euthanized. They were very strong because she wasn't getting any better. So I think it was 10 days or something like that had gone by. She wasn't improving at all. She was home. They had her home, but all she could do was lie down on the floor on her side, and they had to squirt water in her mouth and little bits of baby food. And she looked pretty bad. So someone told this couple that they were the dog's people, told them about me. And when I saw her, because I went to the house, it was in San Diego, I thought, oh my gosh, like she was even more startling than I imagined. Very thin, couldn't move, just hardly breathing. At first, I had to really see, was she even breathing? Well, I'm going to tell you something. In 3 sessions, that magical number 3 for some reason, but 3 sessions, that dog was up on her feet, walking around as if nothing was wrong with her. And not only did they not euthanize her, I went to visit her even a couple of months later, and she was still parading around out in the yard, in the house, just unbelievable. And she was my greatest teacher as far as this process called neuroplasticity. You hear a lot about neuroplasticity now in the news, but this is something that dog taught me better than anyone else. And this was quite a while ago. It was almost just about 30 years ago that I worked with that dog. And what she taught me was, again, no matter the age, no matter the physical condition, some improvement is possible. Her nervous system, I could still communicate with it. She was breathing. I could still communicate with it and could remind her nervous system of other possibilities. She didn't have to be this way. She didn't have to stay this way. If you want more details, I can tell you a little bit more about what I did with her. I don't know if it's interesting for
yes,
people
it
to hear.
is, and
Oh,
I have
okay.
so much. Oh my God!
Okay.
Because neuroplasticity is something, by the way, just not to go off tangent. We're going back. We want to learn more. Is something that I started reading about quite heavily 5 years ago, and
Okay.
my understanding of neuroplasticity is not what you're explaining, and that's why I need to hear this because you're teaching.
Okay.
Mine was like, when you go through strong emotional problems. And then I started reading about neuroplasticity and Carolyn Rice and all that, who was teaching me that. And it's basically, for me, in a nutshell, create good thoughts, create good thoughts, and then
Oh.
you can rebuild again your garden in your brain because your brain can we were told 20 years ago that your brains, once your cells die, they
Yeah,
die
it's wrong. Yeah.
through. The brain cells grow back and
Yes.
create healthy brain cells by your thoughts. That's for me the extent of knowing what is neuroplasticity.
Okay.
Now you are talking about it in a whole different way that I don't even know about. So yes, yes, teach it.
Okay.
Look,
So
we're thirsty, we're hungry, give us knowledge.
so
Educate us.
neuroplasticity
Okay.
is basically needed the ability of the brain to adapt to changing situations, to adapt
Okay.
to changing environments. So you're absolutely right. When you change your thoughts, right, you can change your brain. So and like you said, the brain for all of us until we take our last breath, we are capable of changing and improving our brains. Despite what they said 20 plus years ago,
Yeah.
that wasn't true. So
Yeah.
and that's another reason why some improvement is always going to be possible, because as long as your brain is still working, some improvement is possible. So
Yeah.
with this little dog Buttons, what I did was that first day, all I did was touch her so lightly just to help bring awareness back into her body in different ways. So one way to enhance neuroplasticity is to do things non-habitually, to have non-habitual experiences and sensations. So I was touching, but they have to be pleasant, right? They have to
Mhm.
be light and gentle. So I was touching her in very specific ways, kind of just rhythmically, but in a way that her people didn't normally do that. I was doing very tiny different movements with her. So I was starting to see a change in her breath. That was the first thing I noticed was, oh, I was connecting with her because it was, I'll be honest, Nita, it was almost like she was already gone. Like she could you hardly saw any breath. She she was just like out of it when I started. And then I could just feel her come back into her body. And she started to expand her ribs, breathe a little deeper. So I felt pretty good about it when I left that day. But what I did was I knew I needed to give this dog a little bit more time because her people were the vets kept telling them to euthanize her, and they were crying. It was very emotional, as you can imagine. And I mean, they love their little girl. So what I said to them was, give me 3 sessions, 3 chances to work with her. One today, it was at night. I remember it was like a Sunday night when I went there. I said, and then 2 days from now, and then 2 more days from now. So in other words, give me 3 sessions. And then if you don't think that there's any improvement, then you can talk to your vet again about the next step. So they said, okay. So that first night, I felt pretty good leaving because I'm like, okay, she responded to me. And the second time, so I went back on a Tuesday, she responded a little bit more. I could just feel her more engaged with the process. And then I knew I had one last chance. So on Thursday, I went back and I thought about something I had learned. And it was about my teacher, who actually I never met in person. He had already passed away when I got involved in his work. But his name was Dr. Moshe Feldenkrais, and he originated the Feldenkrais method for humans. I have basically taken so much of his work and applied it to animals. Okay? And then I put in my own thing with loving energy and some other things that I make it,
The
my own.
Debono. The
Yes,
Debono
I made it Debono Moves, but it's strongly influenced, strongly informed by Dr. Feldenkrais's work. Well, one thing Dr. Feldenkrais did, I heard his stories about working with patients that had strokes, that were paralyzed on one side. And he talked about crossing the midline. In other words, taking the right arm and putting it across the body, taking the left arm, putting it across the body, and doing the same with the legs. And, he explained how this can kind of like confuse the nervous system a little bit. Because if you think about what a stroke is, there's no real structural damage to the limb. It's the nerve pathways that got injured, so to speak, right? From the loss of blood flow or whatever the type of stroke was. So it's really the communication to the limbs that's injured, that's problematic, not the limbs themselves. So even though this dog, on one side, I couldn't do anything with the limbs, they would stick straight as if she had rigor mortis, it felt like. I knew that the limbs themselves weren't injured. And so I started to play very, very gently. And remember, I'm very, well trained. So, this is very gentle. But I started to cross one leg a little bit, cross the midline, and then the other one. But this was important too, Nita. I started to pretend in my brain that the right legs were the left legs. I started to convince myself of that. So I crossed them so that she was crossed very gently, and she was comfortable with it. She was breathing easily and everything. And then in my own head, I was almost like pretending the right legs were the left and the left were the right. And so what ended up, so right away, as soon as I crossed the midline, I started to get movement in the formerly paralyzed legs. It was pretty dramatic. So anyway, so I did this, we did a whole session, and then on her own, Buttons, who had not stood up in about 2 weeks, stood up. No, actually, after the second session, she stood up and used the couch. So she still was paralyzed on one side after the second session. The third session, when I did the crossing, she stood up. This is where it got kind of weird, Nita. She switched which side was paralyzed. For just a second. I'll tell you, my heart was in my throat, though, because I thought, oh my gosh. Because suddenly the other side looked paralyzed.
Yes, yes.
But this is neuroplasticity. That is neuroplasticity.
Wow.
That makes sense? That is neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain, of the nervous system to change. So because I had worked with her in such a way that the right legs were the left legs and the left legs were the right legs, her brain, being plastic like ours, malleable, ability to change, switched. Luckily, that only lasted a second, and then she did a little shake and she walked off completely normal.
No way. Did anyone videotape this?
That's my big regret, because her person, the woman, was in the house and came in as she saw her walking, and she started screaming, "I wish we had before and after videos." And my thought was, you wish we had before and after. Because I have to say, it was an incredibly dramatic change. Incredibly dramatic. It was just mind-blowing to me, and it showed me again, it's never too late to help a dog. It's never too late to help a cat, a horse, a human. And I'm going to explain something about that. I'm going to add a little clarification. And it showed me the power of neuroplasticity. Again, I've learned a lot about neuroplasticity over the years, by all the neuroscientists, by all the, people. She was my greatest teacher because she demonstrated an incredible amount of neuroplasticity in that time I had with her. So it was really kind of fun. Now I do want to make a little clarification. When I said it's never too late to improve, sometimes the improvement doesn't mean you're going to be like Buttons and start running around again. Sometimes the improvement is just that you're more comfortable.
Yeah.
So because I have worked with a lot of small animals, especially at end of life, where it literally is going to be very soon.
Yeah.
And I've helped them be much more comfortable. Yeah. But it's not that we totally changed the trajectory of that process. Yeah. But they became much more comfortable, and their people became much more peaceful about it, which helps the dog as well. Yeah. Or the cat or whoever.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to be clear about that. So when I say some improvement is possible, many, many times it's like Cassie that I explained earlier with the back problem, or it's like Buttons with the stroke. And I have lots of other examples, a ton of other examples, and that are pretty dramatic. but sometimes it's something that may not seem as dramatic, but is equally as important. I had one lady, we never even met in person. Because, as you know, now I do a lot of teaching online.
I was
She
going
had
to
got,
ask that too about the online, but go ahead.
oh, okay.
Tell
Well,
your
well,
story, and then I'll ask.
she had gotten my book, and she had a dog who was 17 years old, so very old, and had liver cancer. And they had done surgery, they had done all these things, but the dog was at the end, end stages of her life. And the dog was having a lot of trouble breathing. And of course, this woman was working very closely with her veterinarian. I mean, very closely. But she read in my book about what I call connected breathing. And she started doing that with her dog. And the dog's breathing got so much more regular, got
Yeah.
deeper. And the woman herself, she said this calm, because it's like a meditation I teach, this connected breathing meditation. And the two of them just felt so connected and she said it gave such a peaceful feeling to her and to the dog. She could just feel it in the dog, how the dog just was settling. So then when the dog did pass away, it was less traumatic for both of them. And what the woman told me was she kept doing the meditation even after the dog passed away, and I encourage people to do this and just imagine the dog was with her, and it brought up those same loving, peaceful feelings that she had when the dog was with her. So that's something I teach people, how to approach that stage when it happens.
Yes.
And to have it be as healing and peaceful as possible for both you and the pet.
So important. So important, because there comes a point where we have to accept that your dog needs to transition. It's
Yes.
it's inevitable, and this helps a lot. Mary, your online courses are on your website. We can all see what courses you give. There's a variety of courses, are there? I'm going to check.
Well, there's the book, which is very, very inexpensive, and the book actually comes with access to some online videos and audios and a whole bunch I give you a ton of resources with the book, because I want everyone to be able to do this. And then I have another course that I call Age Proofing Your Dog. And that's videos. So it's a self-paced video course. But then I'm excited because I'm going to be opening up. It's going to be another couple of months, but I'm going to start opening up another group coaching program to take people through the book, like with just a small group of students at once, so I can give you tons of personal attention and help you actually learn how to do it there with your dog. I do this with the horses already. I've been doing it for a number of years with the horses. So, yeah, and I've done it lots and lots of individual sessions online with the dogs and teaching people how to do it with their dogs. But I want to do it in a group format and make it really super affordable for people.
Wonderful. So now how about people like us in Hong Kong and China, and we have our aging pets, and we wish, let's say, for example, with this little doggy that you were just mentioning, what was the name again?
Buttons with yeah.
Now let's say someone has, none of my dogs are like that, but let's say someone does have a dog here and says, Mary, I wish I was right now in San Diego with my baby so you could help. Are you able to heal online?
So I do. So what I require people do is that they either have read my book or done my video program, have some sense of my work, and then I will meet with them online and I can direct them. But it's not cost efficient for them if they haven't already had the foundation of reading my book or something.
Right.
Because then we can get right into it. And I have helped a lot of people. As a matter of fact, there's a lovely, lovely woman in the Philippines who I meet with regularly to help her dogs.
Okay.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm hoping, because I know she goes to Hong Kong sometimes. So once she's all trained up, I'll send her your way.
Yes, please. I would love to meet,
Because
someone who's
she's really
as
wonderful. But
yes,
I have worked with people all over the world where I've directed them. I'm thinking right now of a woman in Norway who she has a whole bunch of dogs and horses, and we'd meet right there in her kitchen. I would feel like I'm right there with her and help her. As a matter of fact, this is a fun story. The very first person
I love your
that I
stories. So
oh, thank
helpful.
you.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Well, the very first person that I did an online session with was a woman in Kenya. So I'm in California. She was in Kenya. And this is back when I don't even know if Zoom existed. We had
Yeah,
Skype. And I had
yeah,
never used Skype before, whatever, but I figured it out.
yeah.
And the reason she contacted me is her daughter had found this puppy, a Rhodesian Ridgeback mix puppy in
Yeah,
Kenya,
yeah.
who had severe scoliosis of his spine
Uh,
and really bad hip dysplasia. So, and the puppy looked very, very abnormal looking. You know, you can tell very clearly how the spine was very crooked, the hips were very bad, and all kinds of things. And of course, they took the puppy to the vet and did all the things. The reason this woman heard of me was actually because another woman in Kenya who comes to me, she flies to the US once a year to teach a university course. She's actually a person who works with baboons. She's a primate researcher. She knew about me. So she told this other woman that she needed to contact me. But anyway, here I am on Skype with this woman, and I felt like I was right there in her living room. It was amazing. And not only was she able to help the dog, I mean, we did a series of sessions. She then went on to study even more about it. And a couple years later, she even sent me a video of the dog as a full adult doing fantastic. And there was some kind of wild African animal in the background. I want to say a wild wildebeest or something like that. And I got such a kick out of it that here she's sending me this video of her dog, and there's a wildebeest like
walking
in.
around. This is incredible. Have you been to
So
Kenya? Have you
I
been?
have not. I have not. The other client has often invited me out, and one of these days I'm going to take her up on it.
I have
Um,
not been either, but as animal lovers, you and I will go crazy seeing all of those beautiful, because
yes.
here in Hong Kong, it's not really a concrete jungle, but yes, it's close to that, and having cats and dogs is as good as it gets what concerns animals. So yes,
Okay.
this whole curiosity of seeing, but this is incredible that you have such wonderful um, clients and people that love and respect you all over the world, and it's so super well deserved, Mary. I hope one day, very soon, and everything is possible, that you come here to Hong Kong and you meet all of us, because I live here 34 years.
Oh
And
wow.
when I moved here 34 years ago, I didn't see as many people walking their dogs. Life was a little bit different. I don't know if this is in the States also, but 34 years ago, it was different. The pets were not around that much.
Mm.
Today, you have bars and restaurants and cafes where there are more pets than humans. So you'll have
Wow.
one person sitting down having a beer, and he'll have two dogs sitting next to him. And the love and passion for pets, for humans, for their pets here in Asia has grown tremendously. And I'm happy, I'm so happy to see that, because I really feel it brings the vibrations up,
Absolutely.
of any, and it really does. So so I'm very happy that you have shared with us and told us that age is not something that you need to be
Yeah.
so worried about, because yes, when I was reading it, I have to be honest with you, Mary. I'm looking at the all these different modalities in healing with all these
Hmm.
incredible healers, and you're number one on the first chapter. And the author speaks so highly. Sandy Johnson speaks so highly of you. Um, and I thought, man, I wish I had read this book ages ago. But like you
Yeah,
said, it's never too
never
late.
too late.
And I'm going to send you a clip because I know you don't know about my golden retriever, Oliver. He is the most gorgeous. And yes, I'm already grieving. It's called anticipatory grief, apparently. And I have an interview that has just come out about anticipatory grief.
Okay.
You already need to prepare yourself for that day to come, and that is huge here for people. So, what is the most important thing, Mary, that you feel we here need to take away from this entire interview? What is
I would say an open mind and helpful hands can do much to change a pet's future. And if you remember that, so and when I say that very specifically, so if you think about an open mind, a lot of us have beliefs. We have beliefs that things can't get better. We have beliefs that after a certain age something can't improve. We have a belief that, oh, well, maybe Mary in California could do this, but I can't do it. I have no special powers. I just want you to know that. All I know is that I have studied, I have practiced, and I have a clear intention when I'm working. But I don't have anything more than anybody else has. So as long as a person can keep an open mind that that improvement is possible, and they focus on possibilities, not on what the problem is, and they use their hands to help, they can it's amazing how much you can change a dog's future. Amazing. And again, even going back to the fact that, okay, maybe it is getting close to a time for a dog to transition. There was a dog, she was a golden retriever. She was 16 and a half years old, which is pretty old for a golden retriever. And I had worked with her before, and then she was coming to the end of her life. And she was at this point, she was pretty much bedridden, we'll call it. Okay. She wasn't getting around well. And her person wanted me to come and give her another session just to, again, she knew that how calming the work was. And what I did with her name was Chili. I helped her, again, like feel youthful in her body. That's the only way I can put it. Like, in other words, I helped relieve those areas that were tight and sore. And I passively moved her the way she used to move when she was a younger dog. And just the look of peace that came over her was really gratifying. So I didn't change the trajectory of, what was going to happen. She did pass away not that long after, they helped her with that. But I felt it was an important thing that I helped her with. That, in other words, that she could feel that peacefulness in her body again, and she could associate a sense of pleasure with her body again.
wow.
And I felt like that's a much better way to exit than to be, really feeling painful or, breathing in a really rapid, shallow way or something like that. So there's many different ways that we can change a dog's future. When I say change a dog's future, maybe that future is a short one, or maybe it's in the case of like this young dog in Kenya, that dog he's able to live like a normal dog now. Now, he still has a kind of a crooked spine. If you x-rayed his hips, they'd still be dysplastic, but he can get around. He can still chase the wildebeest, he can.
That's
So,
yeah.
yeah, so there are so many things that people can do, but again, I find, to be honest, Nita, that it's the human usually that has to change their mindset about what's possible.
Mhm.
The dogs or the cats or the horses don't think about those things. We tend to limit ourselves. We think, "Oh, this is a problem." We tend to just focus on the problem. I encourage people to see past the problem and to think about, well, what is possible? Don't even think like, obviously you work with your vet, you do all the things you can do to help. But then you think, well, what can I do to improve the situation? How can I improve life for this dog right now? And there's so many ways to do that. Again, the connected breathing is such a simple thing. As a matter of fact, this is what we should do, Nita. I'll send you a link where your
Yes.
audience can go directly to a little video
Yes.
where I'm teaching that. So they don't have to buy anything. You
Okay.
don't worry, I want everyone listening and watching
Okay.
to be able to at least do the connected breathing.
Lovely. So that link I'm going to display right here at the interview, the end. So everyone, stay tuned at the end of the interview. You will have that link that you can go on to immediately after this interview. Please, look out for that link. Mary, you are very humble when you say, I don't have special powers and all of us can do this. And that's very, very humble of you. But there's something, when I was reading about you, um, would it be okay for you to tell us all how you got into this, the Feldenkrais, and what had happened to you? Because it happened to you, and I think it's important how you got into this healing, because you were not, I mean, I know you loved animals, and like I see with the horses, and having lived, having moved from the Bronx to the countryside and horses. I loved reading your story, but the people watching right now don't know how you came into this. Could you describe your story and the healing that
absolutely.
happened to you?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. I'd love to,
Very
because
powerful. What happened?
yeah, and the work was so transformative for me because so like you said, Nita, I grew up, I think I came out of the womb just loving animals. So I just always loved animals. And we had a dog growing up and then a horse and all the things. But after school, I became a computer professional. So I worked on Wall Street. I did all the computer systems. I basically designed computer systems. But starting when I was 18, actually, I developed very severe pain in my right hip. And it was chronic. And it used to sometimes wake me up in the middle of the night. It was so painful. And the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. They wanted to do a lot of steroids and things like that. I didn't want to do that. I even knew then I didn't want to do that. And I was told I'd probably need an artificial hip by the time I was 35. And that was a long time ago, let me just say.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, but
and
terrible.
so,
Yeah.
But it was very painful. It was just something I thought then I had to live with because nobody could help me. Okay, so we'll put that aside. And then later on in my 20s, I started to develop very severe carpal tunnel syndrome in both arms. And it got so bad, Nita, that I would wake up in the middle of the night with my arms numb from the shoulders down. And it was, in the beginning, it was almost frightening because I couldn't move them. I had to kind of move like Frankenstein, like just move the middle of my body because I literally could not move my arms. They were completely numb. And then when they weren't numb, my arms were very, very painful. And I was losing sensitivity in my hands. And of course, I was going to the doctors and I was diagnosed with severe carpal tunnel syndrome in both arms. And this is before I knew other things. So I did agree to have surgery. They said we need to do surgery on both arms and we'll start with the less affected one. They did the left one first. That was less affected and it also was not my dominant hand. So I had the surgery and now I'm only going to speak from my experience, okay? Nobody else's, because maybe surgery could be very, very useful for other people with carpal tunnel syndrome. It made it worse in my case. It made it a lot worse. So I built up a lot of scar tissue. Both arms then developed such severe nerve damage that this one orthopedic surgeon, because I started getting other opinions, he told me I had the strength of an infant. That was all. And that I would never get my full movement or my sensation back or my strength.
And you were only 35.
So I was younger at that point. I was younger. I was 29 or 30 at that point.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So the 35 was when they predicted I would need an artificial hip. So anyway, I was crying, I remember, in his office. It was a very grim prognosis, to be told. And he told me even driving was bad. I could never work with horses, all these things I would never be able to do. And then he told me I needed 5 additional surgeries on the arm they already did the surgery on. And I needed all these steroids and all kinds of things. Luckily, I soon discovered the Feldenkrais method, which I stumbled upon. And this is a funny story, as I actually was attracted to the Feldenkrais method thinking maybe it could help my horse. I had a thoroughbred at the time named Toby who had a lot of physical and emotional problems. Somehow I thought, I'm just going to learn everything I can to help him. And I had kind of given up on myself at that point. I mean, I was told all these very grim prognoses from the medical professionals. But anyway, I contacted a local Feldenkrais practitioner, went in to see him, and as soon as, like, during that first session, I felt so different in my body that I made a decision. I have to bring this to animals. And I'm not going to say it wasn't like it was a miraculous thing that in one session I was jumping around with no pain. I actually went to him for 3 sessions a week for a while. And then I went to 2 and then 1 and then kind of weaned off. But the change in my life was so transformative. My hip pain totally went away. I had no more trouble with my arms. I was stronger than ever. I got all my sensation back. It was amazing. And what he did and what the Feldenkrais method does is kind of circling back to what I said earlier. He reminded my nervous system of what was possible. He helped me see where I was overusing some places, tensing muscles unnecessarily, and then underusing other places. So he just basically helped my nervous system come to a place of wholeness again, of full potential. And my nervous system made the changes, just like the dogs make the changes. And that's why I say I'm not a healer. I just create the conditions. He created the conditions for me to move in a way that was in a healthy way. So again, hip pain totally gone. And now I'm in my mid 60s and I haven't had hip pain in more than 30 years.
That is incredible. That is
Arm
miraculous.
problems. Yes.
That's incredible. You are a living testimony of not only the system, but look at you and teaching us that there are other ways that we don't need to have the surgeries necessarily, the surgeries, all that there are also other ways. And I'm so happy because physicians are realizing and they're becoming more, integrated and applying,
yes,
all that. And, thank you for sharing this, Mary. I wasn't too sure whether you wanted to or what, but I said all this time we talked about what you do. But for me, it was also important that you said, you explained who is Mary Debono, who are you? And this was, thank you for this. This is your story that is so important that, to share this with us, how you came across this, because it is big. It's not something that one day you go, oh, I want to help animals and maybe I'll do this. No, you are proof of how this journey and this became your mission, and what a beautiful mission that it got you all the way here. Mary, thank you.
Thank you so much.
So much for your time and sitting here and teaching us so much. And like I said, Mary, we all who want to learn, I'm getting your book today, by the way. I'm catching a flight tomorrow. I'm getting your book today. I can't wait to read it. It's given me a lot of, I don't know, like hope and clarity in what I can do with my pets. I want to see you one day and have with you and just hug you for this, because
I would love it.
When I think we, as all people that have pets, we are passionate people with our pets. They're our children, and as my website is called, Nurture Your Pet. What
Yes.
can we do except for the good food and the exercise and everything? This is a very important. What happens when they age? What happens when they're sick? And Mary,
Yes.
thank you. We are all going to get in touch with you, and I
I
tell
would.
everyone the link is going to be there, how to order her book, how to get in touch with her website, everything about Mary. I am so glad that you have spent this time with us here and introduced yourself. And I'm sure lots of people already know about you here, I'm sure. But you know what? I need more people. I want everyone to.
Well, thank you so much, Nita. It is my complete honor and pleasure to share this work. So I'm thrilled that you invited me here to talk to you and your audience, and I can't wait to meet you in person. So
Yes,
we'll have
yes,
to make that happen for sure.
yes. And Mary, whenever you have more stories to tell and you go, oh my God, another miracle happened, I never
Okay.
got this or whatever, you send me a message and you say, hey, call me because I want to have another Zoom thing.
Oh,
I
I would love it.
have to share with you guys in Asia. Keep on sharing. We love this.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I'd be happy to. Like I said, because this work is so transformative, I want everyone around the world to be able to benefit from it for themselves and for their animals. And one thing I didn't say, Nita, that I
Tell
think is
me.
worth sharing
Yeah, tell
is,
me.
well, just one little quick thing
No,
is
no,
that
no hurry.
when you work with your dog, your cat, your horse, or whoever, you also get the benefits. That's how
Yeah,
I've developed. Yeah. So both you, that's why I called the book Grow Young with Your Dog, because you and your pet both feel younger and more optimistic and have all of this new potential. So it's a win-win. It's always a win-win. It's not that you're like doing something just to help your dog. I mean, that's important too, but you also benefit from it. So the human as well as the non-human animal benefits from it. And I just love that because I think we can all help make the world a better place. Look at all the wonderful stuff you're doing. I so appreciate what you're doing. And so this is my little small way of improving the world. And
huge way. And thank you for saying that because I'm still on the road to healing, physically. And having said what you just said helps me because then when I sit with Oliver and
yes,
do the work that you're going to teach us and teach me, it helps because then we're healing together.
yes,
And it's that, and I
absolutely.
loved what you said in the book. It's a heart to heart connection.
Yes, yes.
Mary, thank you from my heart to your heart.
Oh,
I
thank
can't
you. Same
tell
here.
you from my heart to your heart. I love you. I really, really do for sharing all this, for being the person that you are, and for benefiting me, with helping me with my pets. Thank you so much.
Well, it is my complete pleasure and honor, and thank you so much, Nita. Thank you.
We'll see more of you. Bye
Okay.
from Asia for now.
Thank you so
Enjoy
much,
your day
everyone.
in San Diego. That was
I will.
gorgeous. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Mary. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.